Oh, here's a name out of the past, Jim McGrady.
I saw that one in
Let's
the
keep
letter.
it. Oh. Good evening and welcome to the Mount Olive Council meeting for September 2016. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for our men and women that serve us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Michelle, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act, please?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Here.
Mr. Ferrante. He's not here? Okay. Mrs. Labow. Mr. Mania.
Here,
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Mr. Roman.
Here.
Mr. Nacastro.
Here. Thank you. First item up for discussion is the M&E Railroad. I guess Laura or Sue, someone has...
Yeah, I can just speak briefly about it. I had
Go
sent
ahead.
out 2 letters last Friday for your review. One is a letter to all the mayors of the municipalities that are basically affected by the storage of these railroad cars on the line. So it's requesting them to send a letter to the county, and we have a draft of that letter as well for your review. So Fred had asked me to put it on the agenda for discussion before we went ahead and sent it out.
Okay.
So if everybody's okay with it?
Yep, yep, I have no issue. No, it looks good.
Okay.
All okay with it?
All right,
That's it? On the discussion, huh?
that's it, no discussion.
It was an easy discussion. Thank you. We have, what do I got? I thought I saw it there. Why didn't I see it? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 resolutions.
Forgive me, Mr.
Yes, go ahead.
President. I want to go back to the discussion of M&E. Sue, do you have any updates since the letter sent from your office dated September 8th regarding, I guess you addressed Mr. Fioregia?
I do not.
So nothing, as of the writing of the, nothing else has changed in that?
I don't know. I will have to find that out for you, and I can let you know
All right,
if
thanks.
there's been any change.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you. We have 7 resolutions. Does anyone have any questions on the resolutions?
Actually, just for edification, what is, the resolution regarding the changes in procedures manual? What was the specific on that?
It mostly has to do, it comes from the JIF, and we have to do it each year, so it's basically things on affirmative action and harassment and things of that nature.
Okay, and these are requirements?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, we have 2 ordinances. Does anyone have any questions on the ordinances?
Pretty much.
Nope. Seeing none. Any old business? Seeing none, any new business? Seeing none, does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Okay, we're closed there. I open the Mount Olive Township Council meeting for September 20th, 2016 to order. Michelle, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act, please?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Yeah.
Mr. Ferrante. Mrs. Labow. Mr. Mania.
Here,
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Mr. Roman.
Here.
Mr. Nacastro.
Here. We have 31 pieces of correspondence. Does anyone have anything on those? Seeing none, let me see where I'm at. Those are 31 pieces there. The next item on the agenda for first reading.
Forgive me,
Yes.
point of order, are we approving the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did pass that. Thank you. Mr. Amianda, would you approve the minutes for September 6, 2016 for the workshop and public session? Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings on September 6, 2016, work session and public meeting.
second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante. Mrs. Laybow? Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here, yes. Let the record show Mr. Ferrante is in attendance. Next item on the agenda is for first reading, is ordinance number 20-2016, an ordinance of the township. This was the, I'm sorry. Yeah, public hearing, this is the second reading. Okay. So the ordinance was, this is, I'm sorry. Before, I'll just do it that way. Do it that way, right. Open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 20-2016, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, Chapter 106, alcoholic beverages of the Township Code to eliminate the repeal of distance restriction relating to liquor licenses. Someone make a motion? Do we have a motion?
To remove it?
No, just the motion to, then we'll discuss it.
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 20-2016.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. I was going to bring up the reason as well, just so you know, there was a discussion that came up, someone notified us that, I didn't realize personally, and a lot of us, some of us did, I wasn't aware that there's two different types of licenses, one for retail and one for consumption.
There are
So,
actually several kinds of.
right, but the ones that with the distance regulations on them, I believe, had to do with the consumption and the retail, from what I was told, anyway.
Yeah.
The social ones are a
Club
little different, I
licenses and
think, right?
social permits don't apply.
There are-
So-
Okay.
I was going to make a recommendation that we redo this ordinance, that we take a vote on it, but it would be my recommendation that we introduce an ordinance that just limits the restriction to retail and takes it out of the consumption. So consumption doesn't have a restriction, but retail does.
Why change it?
Because there, I mean, after discussion of knowing about the two, I think it was a big difference between the retail end of it and the consumption part.
Well,
Distribution.
What type?
Distribution, I'm sorry.
I'd have to say that I'm not in favor of the change for the following reason. Let's assume that a supermarket wants to come in and buy a retail license rather than consumption.
Correct.
And they're within close proximity to another retail establishment that is in the liquor business itself. Why do we care?
Well, to me, it's a little more worse for the retailers. Like, you know, when you're talking about consumption, it's restaurants, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's only my opinion. The restaurants and all, to me, you can have as many restaurants in a row. It's a little different. But,
I think the bottom line is that we as a governing body need to, maximize the value of the liquor licenses in town, whether it's consumption or retail. And from a Republican perspective, a free market perspective, I don't have a problem with someone coming in with a liquor license and ultimately a distribution license, coming in, establishing a cheaper price. The market itself will fix where the distribution outlets will be based upon price. For instance, you have two distribution liquor licenses that are within relatively close proximity down in Flanders. You have the Wine Rack and you have By Right Liquors. So I don't know that necessarily you need to distinguish between the types of liquor licenses. And I would urge the council to move forward with the ordinance as currently written and just let free market deal with where the distribution outlets are going to be ultimately.
Mr. Rowan?
I mean, with this, well, the first approach about the differences between the two, you know, I initially had the initial reaction that, oh yeah, it's not a good idea to have two liquor stores right next to each other. But as the more I think about it, if a liquor store A, you know, wants to compete against liquor store B and he just moved in right next door, who am I? You know, if they both think that they can operate within less than 1,200 feet, who am I? The number of liquor licenses are not controlled by us. The only control that we have is as far as distance, and I can't see of any reason why I would say, if you want to make a business decision and compete right next door to somebody else, then that's your call.
And who is going to benefit from that? It's going to be the ultimate consumer who's going to benefit because you're
Right.
going to competition and you're going to get cheaper prices in terms of liquor. And ultimately, it will even out that if it doesn't work that way, that someone is going to buy a liquor license and move it someplace else in town where they can establish their free market liquor sales. I agree with you 100%, Alex, which I'm happy to say because I'm not often saying that.
Does anyone else have anything else to say on that? Mr. Amianda?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'm not for the change. I'm against the change for the following reasons. After reading the ordinance, I noticed that distance restriction, you plan to eliminate and repeal distance restriction relating to liquor licenses, which I think is a tool for the town, is a tool that the town needs to control liquor licenses in the district. It is a tool, and therefore, if we get rid of that tool, I don't know what the town will use to account for the people who are doing business in the district. Number two, to eliminate and repeal the distance restriction relating to liquor licenses will encourage more people to enter alcohol distribution business. But according to the law of supply and demand, will drive some distributors out of business. Now the reason number three why I'm against the change is that we do not wish to see a liquor store on every corner of the street. And that is what will happen if you eliminate and repeal distance restrictions relating to liquor licenses.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Questions, concerns, nothing? Yeah, I do, what the mayor brought up and Alex, you brought up, made me think of something else. I guess it contradicts what I was thinking because we have bagel shops that are next door to each other and we have everything else that's next door to each other. And we, as much as we say there's 10 pizzerias on one block, it's not up to us to decide what belongs where. It's up to the landlords to know what they want in their properties. So putting a restriction on it might not be something that would be beneficial to us because we don't restrict any businesses per se that we do, so.
Nor should we.
Nor should we get involved with that. And from that standpoint, it makes sense to keep the ordinance the way we wrote it and let the free market be what it is. So, Mr. Roman?
And again, if I thought at any point that that this ordinance would bring about the liquor store in every corner, then I would have second thoughts. But luckily, the number of liquor license is not controlled by us. It's a limited number. You cannot increase it, as some people would have us do. So this is merely a tool to get rid of anti-competitiveness, in my opinion.
Okay, just for the record, we can only have 5 distribution licenses right now to begin with, so it's not like we're gonna have any more
Yeah.
coming in anyway at
Right.
this point, so. All right. So I guess anyone from the public wish to be heard on that? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
No.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I changed my mind too. Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. So, lost my track of where I am. So was the, for Mr. Ferrante, would you
Up.
move that?
You have to,
Yeah.
Does anyone, I did the public,
Yep.
Councilor close the public hearing, yep. Mr. Ferrante, would you move?
forgive me, point of order, you have to announce that it's ordinance has passed. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
We had the first reading, or second?
Second reading.
Yeah, I didn't get there yet. I'm waiting for Mr. Ferrante to, I'm sorry, I should have said Mr. Ferrante to read I went backwards. Moves for final adoption and passage.
I thought we did that already.
Yeah, I did.
You did that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he did.
Alex
said it.
I did
motioned
it.
and then.
Motion seconded.
Okay,
now-
so
I
Alex
seconded
made the
Alex
motion. I'm sorry.
made
I
the
went out of
motion.
order on
You
that,
have to
so.
declare it and send it my way for signature.
Right. Ordinance number 20-2016 is passed on second reading and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish notices of adoption as required by law. Thank you. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 22-2016, an ordinance amending sections 3H, 3N1, 3N2, and 6B of the bond ordinance number 5-2016 of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, finally adopted on March 18, 2016, in order to amend the description of the project, decrease certain appropriation and authorization amounts, increase certain appropriation and authorization amounts, and amend average useful life. Now, Mr. Ferrante.
Sure.
Since I got you there.
I move that ordinance number 22-2016 be introduced by title and passed in first reading, and that a meeting be held on October 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Thank you. Any council discussion? None? Anyone from the public? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 23-2016, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Mount Olive to amend Chapter 550 Land Use to rezone certain lands from the what is that? Light Industrial Zone District to the General Industrial Zone District to rezone a single parcel from the FTZ-4 zone to the GI General Industrial Zone in accordance with the amendment to the land use element of the town master plan adopted by Mount Olive Planning Board on December 17, 2015. Mr. Mania?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 23-2016 be introduced by title and passed in first reading, and that a meeting will be held on October 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Council discussion? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have 7 resolutions. Anyone wish to move any to non-consent? Seeing none, Mr. Stewart, would you move resolutions 1 through 7?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that consent resolutions 1 through 7 be moved for adoption and final passage.
Second.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Anyone from council have anything? Mr. Roman?
Hey, on resolution number 5, I apologize for not bringing this up in the workshop session, but number 5 is one of those feel-good resolutions, and even though I abhor large-scale breeding operations, I think this is, again, one of those matters that if the public wishes to engage in from what I understand, a still lawful activity, that we should not be in the business of preventing any business as long as they are not violating any current health or any of our other ordinances in town. And as such, I will be voting no on resolution number 5.
Does anyone have any other comments on that? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes on 1 through 4, no on 5, yes on 6 and 7.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Let's see. Mr. Roman, would you move the bill list, please?
I move for approval of the bill list.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Administrative reports, Mayor, Laura?
I have been fighting the battle of Park Place through social media. As you all know, Park Place for some time had speed humps on it, and during the repaving effort of Park Place, the speed humps were removed, and I directed DPW not to put the speed humps back on. While the road is obviously a cut-through between Hillside and Main Street, it's of short duration. It's also requires a turn at both ends, which is significant. So my initial perception was that you're not getting anyone with great speed up on that road, notwithstanding the fact that Phyllis Shelton, who obviously lives on the street and owns a number of different properties, calls me on a bi-weekly basis indicating that there are speeders on the road and it's dangerous, so on and so forth. I put the matter on my Facebook page, and I can tell you probably 80% to 20% people don't want the speed humps on that road. I did direct DPW at this point to put the speed recognition electronic signs on both ends of the road, and I want to see how that ultimately works in terms of slowing down the traffic on the road. I am not a proponent of speed humps. I do understand their need around schools primarily, but otherwise I do not want to see a proliferation of speed humps. And I am evaluating the situation on a going forward basis, anecdotally, to see whether or not I believe that speed humps are appropriate to put back on Park Place. But I wanted you all to be aware of the issue. I suggest you all take a look at the comments on my Facebook page. I actually got a call from someone from Jefferson Township urging me to put the speed humps back on. I don't know who put the person up to it, but it was a little bizarre to me. And it was a lot of the same comment that I had gotten from Phyllis early on. But, you know, I would ask that you take a look at the issue going forward as you travel that road or you're in that area, to take a look, and if you have any kind of comment or observation, to let me know.
And by the way, Mr. Mayor, the signs are still there too, so,
The signs,
yeah,
that what, they're speed humps?
yep.
Yeah. Okay, maybe that'll work. The signs without the humps, it's yes. We had the townwide garage sale this week, and we had about 100 participants involved. I will give you more feedback as I hear about it. This Friday is Stomp Out Hunger at ShopRite. On the 23rd, I know some of you have signed up to participate in that. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in Michigan, going to Michigan Penn State, go blue. This Saturday night, Starry Skies, which I've always attended, which I found to be an incredibly enjoyable evening. I hope that some of you were able to attend. Tickets are still available 5 to 9. That's all I have. Do you have anything, Laura?
Just briefly, the Seward House, the stabilization project just wrapped up this week. The interior of the house looks amazing with the windows unboarded. It's very bright. It looks like twice the size that it looked before. And I actually received a pretty positive response from Rutgers. So it looks like we are going to have some student interns next spring, potentially summer.
Oh, nice.
They're in the historic restoration program, graduate program at Rutgers.
That's great
So-
news.
Yeah, so they're interested. So we'll see how many that we can get together and bring up. We have to provide the supervision, but they're gonna do all the work, so.
Let me follow that up with 2 additional comments, one related to the Seward House. It's my plan next year to actually take Mark Dombrowski, who is incredibly talented, and dedicate him to starting the restoration of the building. I think that we've put a lot of money into maintaining the building so it doesn't fall down. And at this point, I see the best bet in terms of actually getting it back into active use, rather than spending money and bringing in an outside entity. In light of the equipment that we have purchased over the years, is actually to have a dedicated employee of Mount Olive Township moving forward on that building. So we're going to be looking at that next year, and that certainly will be a subject of the budget process. The other item I want to bring you up to date on slightly is that we have begun negotiations with the Mount Olive FOP and the supervisor of the police department union to discuss potential contract issues. And as soon as we have some agreement, or at least tangential agreement with respect to some of the issues, I will certainly educate you as to same during a closed session meeting, as it would be the subject of contract negotiations. I can tell you that the main issue on the table relates to health benefits and the sunset of Chapter 78, and the effort made by the township to come up with a fair and reasonable proposal to the FOP that both will benefit the FOP and protect the township in terms of our expenditures going forward on health benefits. And great effort was put into this by Sherry to come up with the proposal, so kudos to her. She did a great job. The initial reaction from the FOP was that they were considering it. They had a lot of questions, but they thought that the initial proposal was worthy of discussion. So again, Sherry has stepped up to the plate and has come forward on behalf of the township in a solution to a problem which seemed to be not solvable.
Mr. Mania?
Quick question, Mayor. Dombrowski won't be working alone in there, correct?
He is going to be dedicated to, I'm going to take him out of, my initial thought is to take him out of buildings and grounds, still under the supervision of buildings and grounds, but he's going to be dedicated to getting that building back into shape. The rest of it has to come into place. It's not like I have a detailed plan in terms of how it's going to happen. But again, after having spent several hundred thousands of dollars to get us to where we are now, it's time to figure out a way to get the building back into use. So he will not be by himself,
Good, that's my concern.
but
Safety.
yes, but the effort is yet undefined. But that's my plan, is to have a township employee responsible for moving the restoration forward. And I think that we will save a lot of money. He's an incredibly talented guy. He's expressed the fact that he is able to undertake the massive nature of the task. And so we're gonna move forward in that way, and I think we're all gonna be proud at the end of the day that we have a building that we're gonna be able to actually get back into use significantly in terms of the park itself.
And the windows are starting to look nice outside.
Yeah,
The new windows,
they are. I'm thinking about moving in, but
you are.
yeah.
It's a big house.
It's a big house.
How many square feet is that? Anybody know?
A lot.
It's big.
Between,
Yeah.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
several members of council and myself could probably live in there comfortably.
Need a frat
Just
house.
say, John, you're good right now, so right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any old business from anyone? Any new business? Any legal matters?
Just a couple of updates. One is Cobblestone, which Fred sent you all an update on, but if you
Right.
haven't seen it, the hearing was held. He wanted to thank the administration for all the help they've provided, and he felt that a good case was put on, and hopefully this will get resolved in the right way. The other item, the mayor may want to chime in, involves the sale of a 57-acre area.
Yes, I can certainly chime in on that.
And I know we're putting together a resolution that we would ask council to consider at the next meeting, putting it up for public auction, but the mayor, I think, could provide more details on that.
Absolutely. I've had detailed discussions with Fred. It was our original plan to sell the property to Green Tree Development, who is the contract purchaser of ASF. Fred looked at it from a legal perspective and made the determination that the township is required to actually put it out to bid. And so the bid documents are going to be drafted by Dorsey and Semro and put out to bid. It can only work to our benefit at the end of the day. There'll be an upset price, which will be consistent with what we had originally intended to sell it at.
Mr. Earl?
so there's no guarantee, there's guarantees in place that prevent it from actually going, being auctioned off for a lesser amount?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Council reports. Mr. Amianda, anything from Board of Ed or seniors?
Yes, I have some. Let me get it together. Yeah, a Board of Education met at 6:30 p.m. on September 12, 2016, for work session at the Administration Building, Flanders, New Jersey. Reports and discussions. Dr. Larry Reynolds, Superintendent of Schools, gave a report on school openings. Schools opened on September 6, 2016, and school opening went well. Mr. Glenn Miller, Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, gave a report about school facilities update, renovations, summer maintenance, and work in progress on solar project at Sancho School. Dr. Reynolds praised Mr. Miller for outstanding work he's doing to keep our schools in good shape. Action items, the board passed a resolution to authorize the donation of school bus number 43 to Bad Lake First Aid and Rescue Squad for training purposes for rescue personnel on the safe evacuation of school buses in an emergency. The board discussed and approved personnel action items, curriculum and instruction items, business action items, and administrative action items. The board approved a study tour trip to China sponsored by Rutgers University for October 27, from October 27, 2016 through November 6, 2016 for board president and 3 other board members. Mount Olive Senior Citizens Association Club did not meet.
Thank you.
Did you say there are members of the Board of Education who are going to China?
Yes.
On
Yeah.
tax dollars?
Not Chinatown, right?
Yeah,
They said China.
They're going to China.
Wow.
Yeah,
No, I just read what
spending 5-6 days there.
I just said what the resolution said. The trip is being sponsored by Rutgers University.
Yeah, I got
And it will
invited.
include the board president and 3 other board members.
Okay.
And here I have a hard time getting reimbursed for gas.
You see? Mr. Ferrante, anything environmental or lake?
Nothing until next month.
And library? Forgot that one.
Same.
Same. Thank you. Mr. Maney, anything on legislative or planning?
Planning, the 7-Eleven has been carried to December 8th. Both the board and the applicant couldn't get together on an earlier date, so it's December 8th.
If it's delayed anymore, it'll be an 8/12. Sorry.
Board of Health has no meeting. Trevor was on vacation, so we're meeting in October, the 3rd Wednesday. We'll get an update then. Mr. Roman, anything on open space and rec?
Open space, the meeting was held and discussions about requesting from council items, supplies and tools and materials, including a request for a shed. And also they'll be asking the administration if this council approves a budget line item for those materials, tools in the shed, or if the administration would accommodate them as far as a location somewhere on township property. In the past, many of the things that were allocated specifically for the use of the open space committee have gone missing, for lack of a better word. So this is an attempt to not only be able to continue improving and building trails, but to also make sure that any materials and tools used by them do not get misplaced. And recreation, I missed the recreation meeting because it was a holiday in my household, particularly my birthday, so I did not attend.
Too big a cake.
Which birthday are you referring to? Which one of the 4?
No, one of the three.
It was a cake.
It was the cake birthday, yes, that was the one.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Stewart, anything on MOTV or Community Action Plan?
Nothing on TV, and the Community Action Panel meets next week.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Any council comments? Mr. Amianda?
Yes, Mr. President, I have 3 comments. The first one is summer 2016 in Turkey Brook Park started and ended on a high note. Mount Olive Township residents and visitors enjoyed our beautiful park and the addition of the park's water splash. Many thanks for the leadership of Mayor Bob Greenbaum and his staff for working so hard to make the park ready for us to enjoy. Comment number 2, school referendum. School referendum for full-day kindergarten is around the corner. Please vote on September 27, 2016. Full-day kindergarten will be good for our children. I urge you, council persons, and the public to support passage of the referendum for full-day kindergarten. Comment number 3, public safety. There is need for traffic light at Oakwood Village Housing Complex exit in Flanders and USA Route 206 East. Public safety is one of our priorities, and the council should do all they can to get a traffic light installed. Thank you, Mr. President. That's the end of my.
Thank you, Mr. Amell. That was the Mayor?
Just want to respond to the last comment. First of all, thank you for the nice comments with respect to the splash pad. But some time ago, after there was a fatal accident, we attempted to get a traffic light at Route 206 in Oakwood Village because we believed, as you do, that it was necessary. However, the state of New Jersey saw it otherwise because of the proximity to the light at Flanders Netcon. They declined. We were fortunate enough to convince them to allow us to put up that flashing turn light that is ultimately there. But it is something that I agree with you. I would love to see a traffic light there. It just doesn't work from the state's perspective, and there's not much we can do about it because it's a state highway.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrante?
Nothing.
Mr. Mania?
Yes, I had spoken to the mayor on 9/11 memorial service about a flag behind the memorial. And I took it upon myself, and I think I have an organization that might be willing to put that flag up.
Talking about the car dealership kind of flag, that big, beautiful American flag?
Well, this would be a 25-foot pole.
Yeah, I want to go much higher.
Well,
I want to put
in
a
talking
flag-
with Jim Lynch,
Yes.
25 feet is the highest he can do without having a crane put it in.
If we're going to do it, John, we should do it right. And I am a firm believer, and it has always been my intention, and whether it's right behind the memorial or somewhere closer to the middle of the inner loop, I would love to put in a pole and a flag consistent with what the car dealerships have done, which is that massive scale. I think it's important, and I'm glad that you found somebody, but my preference is to go much bigger than 25 feet. And to spend the money, get the crane, put the flagpole in, put the flag on it, and be proud of our facility.
Would the town, if I can get the organization to pay for the flag and the pole,
Yeah.
would the township consider the crane to put it in?
The township would consider, actually, what I would like you to do is go back to the organization and say, we'd like to do something much bigger. So if you have the cost on the 25-foot pole and the flag.
$1,575.
Okay, and $1,575?
Yes.
We could take that as a donation towards the total cost of what I'm looking to do, which is
And put it towards that.
put it towards that and give them the credit of having donated money towards the thing, and actually the town fund the difference, because I'm talking about something at a much larger scale.
Yeah, the flag is only a 3x5.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about a much larger scale, because.
And they also now have a 9/11 flag that we could put underneath the American flag.
Yeah, see, a 25-foot flag doesn't really do much different than what football currently has next to their shed. You should go up and take a look, and I don't know what the height of it is, but it's, because of the size of the park, it requires the larger installation. Otherwise, it's gonna be dwarfed by Now, if you're just looking about putting a flag behind the memorial, a 25-foot flagpole and flag would probably be sufficient, but it's not really what I'm looking to do in terms of township installation of a flagpole and flag in the park. I really want to see something.
So I'll work on it.
Okay. Yes, I would consider putting it in my budget if the council would consider funding it as my budget came across.
These are like 10 feet here, 3x5 flags, right?
Right.
Yeah, you need the big.
Yeah, and if you look at the one, like the mayor just said, the football looks so tiny, even though it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It
The one you see-
just-
It's tiny.
Yeah, remember when we were looking at it, it was tiny.
That one up Route 10 was the Buick place, that big one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's
gorgeous.
massive.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to
Yeah.
do, right in the center, you know, somewhere near the splash pad and Mount Playmore, and just, but I do want to follow up with something that John brought up, which is lighting the memorial and the flag.
Right.
That I think is a requirement if we're going to have a flag that we
Right.
don't take down.
Correct.
Yeah, because we have conduit already running to the flag in front of Turkey Brook. All we have to do is put wires in.
I would appreciate if you would follow up on both issues with Jim.
Sure.
So that when it comes to budget time, you can give that information to Sherry so that we can include that information.
So should I have Jim look up a bigger flag?
I want something on the scale of what Warnock did down in East Hanover or Salerno.
So I'll have Jim see if he can get
With the
pricing
crane-
on that.
With the crane rental, let's do it right. It's gonna have to be obviously cemented into the ground. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
You're talking about an expensive proposition, but one that we will only have to do once. And I think it's important, and I can tell you.
I do too. It bothered me to,
I'm terribly
Sit-
troubled by everything that's happening in the NFL in terms of the protests. While I believe that everyone has a right to protest, it's not the right time or the right place for it. And I am a proud American, and I support our flag because it is a symbol of everything that our country and our township stands for, from my perspective.
so I'll get together with Jim and,
Yes, tell
All
him,
right.
you tell him exactly what I'm looking for, and the contribution from whoever you got it from, will, if you can get them to contribute towards the cost of.
all they're asking is that we put some sort of a plaque that they donated towards it. I said, I don't think that's a problem.
It's not a problem, it's a question of a legal issue that would have to be answered by the Dorsey and Semro firm, that yes, we can put a plaque up, I'm sure we can. We do it all the time, placards and.
Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Mr. Stewart, any comments?
Just big congratulations to the promotions from the police department, and thanks for their work.
Mr. Roman?
Again, I just want to remind, thank you, Mr. Amian, that the school board election is next Tuesday. Fortunately, I hold the contrary view. I urge everyone to vote no. Though I think childhood education is extremely important. Going from part-time to full-time has been shown repeatedly that it has no beneficial effects on children. And this will only impact taxpayers for years and years to come. Also, received a letter today on the resignation of David Kaptira from the Mount Olive Republican Club, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank David for his 4 years of service and in resurrecting the Mount Olive Republican Club. And look forward to seeing all of us in attendance tomorrow at the next club meeting. And also on the heels of what the mayor and a discussion was regarding the flag, I too am disturbed by the rash of kneeling and or turning your backs during the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. Though I would agree it's their right to protest, it just is abhorrent as someone who was not born here to have Americans show their disrespect for this country in this manner. This country has problems like any other country, city, or state, but I challenge anyone to find any other country that is more freer and has more opportunities to its residents than this United States. Thank you.
Here, here.
I don't have anything to say. I'll just ditto what Alex said because everything was right on. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.